My fiancée leaked my fake intimate pictures to humble me, laughing. Delete your socials. I sent her real affair pics to her megachurch donors. Moral hazard. Then I sued for revenge porn. Her ministry collapsed before Sunday service. I'm 32, male, a pretty normal guy. I have a decent job in software development, a small circle of good friends, and until last week, a fiancée I adored. Her name is Andrea, 30. To everyone else, Andrea is an inspiration. She runs a thriving online ministry and lifestyle brand called Abundant Grace Living. She's charismatic, beautiful, and projects an aura of serene piety that has attracted thousands of followers, and more importantly, a handful of extremely wealthy donors for her megachurch's new outreach center. To me, she was just Andrea, the woman who'd steal my fries, fall asleep during movies, and who I was excited to build a life with. That life detonated last Tuesday. It started with a text from my friend Keith. Dude, you need to see this. It was a link to a fringe forum, the kind of place you only go if you're looking for trouble. And there I was, or rather, a version of me. A series of shockingly realistic, explicit photos. My face, my tattoos, but not my body, not my actions. They were deep fakes, vile, humiliating, and utterly convincing to the casual eye. They were spreading, fast. My first thought was that I'd been hacked, or that some troll had a weirdly specific vendetta. I felt sick. I called Andrea, my voice shaking, and told her what was happening. She was quiet for a moment, then she laughed. It wasn't a nervous laugh. It was a full, throaty, "That's hilarious" laugh. "Oh, wow," she said, catching her breath. "They came out better than I expected. The AI thing is pretty wild, huh?" The world tilted. The air in my lungs turned to ice. "What did you say?" "Ethan, relax," she said, her voice dripping with condescending amusement. "You've just been getting a little, I don't know, a little too confident lately. With the promotion and everything. I just thought you needed to be humbled a bit. It's for your own good. Keeps you grounded." I couldn't form words. I was just staring at the wall of my apartment, the one we were supposed to share. "Don't be so dramatic," she continued, her tone shifting to annoyance. "It's not a big deal. Just delete your socials for a while. It'll blow over. Honestly, your reaction is making this way more of a thing than it needs to be." She hung up. I tried to call back, but she didn't answer. I was left in a state of pure catatonic shock. The humiliation was one thing. The casual cruelty from the person I trusted most in the world was something else entirely. It felt like a fundamental law of my universe had been broken. I didn't sleep. It was a terrifying, crystal-clear calm, the kind of focus you get when a program you've been debugging for weeks finally reveals its fatal flaw. The next morning she called back. Her tone was no longer amused. It was impatient. "Are you over it yet?" she asked. No preamble. "People are starting to ask questions, and you need to get ahead of this. Just put out a statement saying you were hacked and delete your accounts. End of story." The audacity of it. Ordering me to do her PR cleanup was the final switch flip. My hand was steady as I activated the recording app on my laptop before answering on speaker. "One-party consent is legal here." "Why would I do that, Andrea?" I asked, my voice flat. "Because it's the smart thing to do," she snapped. "Why are you being so difficult? I told you. It was a joke, a way to take you down a peg. You needed it. Now, are you going to handle this, or am I going to have to deal with your mess?" "My mess?" "Yes, your mess," she said, her voice rising. "Your overreaction is the problem here. That was all I needed. I didn't delete my socials. I took screenshots of everything. I hired a lawyer. And then I started thinking about her donor retreat a few weeks back. The way she glowed when talking about Arthur Vance, the church's biggest benefactor. The way she'd gotten defensive when I asked about the trip. There was a thread there. I just had to find a way to pull it. She thought she could humiliate me, break me, and then tell me how to clean it up. She was about to learn about consequences. Update 1. It's been a long week. The first few days were about methodical preparation. I found Ms. Doris, a lawyer whose online reviews described her as a velvet-gloved hammer. She was exactly what I needed. We filed an official police report, and she began drafting the civil suit. Then we moved to step 2. I spent 2 nights digging, not through her current devices. She wasn't that careless, but through an old tablet we used to share for travel planning. She'd forgotten about it, but her cloud account was still logged in. It took hours of scrolling through thousands of backed-up photos, but I found them, not in a neat folder, but scattered among hundreds of shots of sunsets and group dinners. 3 photos from her donor retreat. Andrea and Arthur Vance, on a private-looking balcony, his arm around her waist, their heads close together. Andrea and Arthur clinking champagne glasses. I cross-referenced the unique decor with hotels in the area. It was a 5-star boutique spot, miles from the conference center, where the retreat was officially held. A selfie of Andrea, winking, wearing a man's dress shirt. The monogram on the cuff, AV, was unmistakable. Armed with this, I sent the email last Thursday evening. The recipient list was small but potent. The 6 members of the board of directors for Andrea's church, including Arthur Vance himself, and the top 5 donors listed on their last annual report. The subject line, urgent. Concerns regarding moral hazard and financial stewardship. The email was professional and to the point. I outlined Andrea's actions, stated that I had evidence, including a recorded confession, and noted my belief that her character and judgment posed a significant risk to the ministry. I included the link to the secure gallery with the photos and screenshots. Password, Moral Hazard 11. I expected an explosion. What I got was worse. Almost complete silence from the people who mattered. Andrea, of course, lost her mind. A torrent of furious texts and voicemails. Her parents called. Her father threatening vague business repercussions. Her mother weeping about how I was letting Satan win. I blocked them all. But from the church, nothing. No one from the board called me. No one replied to the email. On Friday, a short, bland statement appeared on their website. We are aware of certain allegations concerning personnel at our ministry. We take all such matters seriously and will be looking into it internally. We ask for prayers for all involved. It was a classic corporate stonewall. They were hoping to bury it. Arthur Vance's accounts went silent. Andrea didn't post anything all weekend. They were circling the wagons, trying to figure out how to manage me and make this go away. The title of this post was Wishful Thinking. Her ministry didn't collapse before Sunday service. In fact, on Sunday, a guest pastor gave the sermon. Andrea was nowhere to be seen, but her absence was explained away as her taking a much-deserved rest after her tireless work. They think they can wait me out. Ms. Doris warned me this would happen. She said, institutions protect themselves first. We've shown them the fire. Now we wait for them to realize it's inside their own house. It's frustrating, but this is a marathon, not a sprint. Update 2. The silence finally broke, and it broke in the ugliest way possible. For weeks, it was a cold war. The church's internal investigation was a black hole. My lawyer's inquiries were met with polite legal non-answers. Andrea remained offline. It seemed like their strategy was to just ignore it into oblivion. They underestimated my patience, and they vastly underestimated Andrea's narcissism. About 2 weeks ago, she came roaring back. She posted a slick, professionally produced video. She's sitting in her all-white office, looking pale and prayerful. She cries, but not too much, just enough to make her eyes glisten. She spins a tale about her toxic, controlling ex-fiancé, me. She claims I was jealous of her success and her faith. She says the deepfakes were a disgusting joke I made for myself that she knew nothing about. The affair? Arthur Vance was a fatherly mentor guiding her. She says I'm a bitter, vindictive man, trying to destroy a woman of God, and that I'm using manipulated photos and fabrications to do it. It was a full-scale smear campaign. Her followers, desperate to keep believing in her, lapped it up. My social media was flooded. My workplace got emails. They tried to paint me as an abuser. Her father's golf buddy at the local police precinct called me again, this time to let me know they'd received a harassment complaint from Andrea against me. It was a coordinated, vicious attack designed to break me, to make me too radioactive to continue the fight. For a few days, it was hell. It's one thing to know you're right. It's another to have 1,000 strangers screaming that you're a monster. I felt the pressure. This is where they expected me to fold, but they pushed too hard. Ms. Doris advised against a public rebuttal. You don't wrestle with a pig, she said. You both get dirty, but the pig likes it. Instead, we took a different route. We didn't send the audio of Andrea's confession to the board. They'd already proven they would bury it. Instead, my lawyer contacted a well-respected investigative reporter at a major city newspaper, one known for taking down corrupt politicians. We gave him the entire package, an exclusive, the deep fakes, the affair photos, the text messages, and the crown jewel, the crystal-clear audio of Andrea laughing and saying I needed to be humbled. The reporter spent a week verifying everything. He confirmed the audio was untampered. He spoke to digital forensics experts about the deepfakes. He found Arthur Vance's wife, who had apparently already been growing suspicious, and had hired her own private investigator. The article dropped last Tuesday. It was a front-page exposé, Pillars of the Church, Send Digital Deceit. That was the explosion I had been waiting for. The church could ignore my email. They could not ignore a massive public scandal. Within 24 hours, Arthur Vance had resigned from the board. Donors started pulling out, citing the article. The church's Facebook page was a dumpster fire. Late Friday afternoon, the church released a new statement. Andrea was being placed on indefinite administrative leave. They announced a full, independent third-party audit of Abundant Grace Living's finances. The wagons were no longer circled. They were on fire. Final update. It's been a long, grinding 8 months. The word justice sounds clean and righteous. The reality is slow, exhausting, and expensive. The newspaper article was the tipping point that turned my private battle into a public execution. Andrea's ministry didn't just collapse. It was methodically dismantled under public scrutiny. The independent audit, spurred by the Vance divorce proceedings, revealed what we all suspected. Ministry funds had been used for Andrea's personal enrichment, rent on her luxury apartment, designer clothes, and of course, the donor retreat that was actually a romantic getaway. Arthur had funneled almost $250,000 to her ministry, which was essentially just her personal slush fund. My lawsuit moved at a snail's pace. There were no dramatic courtroom confessions. There were just endless, soul-crushing depositions. I had to sit in a sterile conference room for 6 hours while Andrea's lawyer tried to paint me as a jealous, unstable man. I just stayed calm and repeated the facts. The most telling moment was Andrea's deposition. She was a different person without her online audience. Her pious serenity was gone, replaced by a sullen, venomous anger. When my lawyer played the audio of her laughing, she didn't cry or apologize. She looked at me across the table and said, he was being arrogant. He needed to be reminded of his place. That was it. In front of her own lawyer, she admitted her motive was malice. That was the moment her legal team knew they were going to lose. They pushed for a settlement a few weeks later. The final agreement was significant. It covers all my legal fees, the cost of therapy, which has been essential, and a substantial amount in damages. Most importantly, it comes with a permanent restraining order and a rock-solid NDA that prevents her from ever speaking about me publicly again. She is ruined, not just financially. She had to sell everything of value to pay her lawyers and the settlement. But socially, the church officially severed all ties and rebranded entirely. Her name is Mud in the community she worked so hard to conquer. Arthur Vance's divorce was brutal, and he's a social pariah. Her parents are, from what I hear, still telling their friends that their angel was brought down by a demon. Some people never change. I don't feel triumphant. There was no single moment of victory, just a gradual cessation of hostilities. I feel tired. The fight took more out of me than I expected. It has changed my view of people, of trust. I'm more cautious now, more reserved, but I'm healing. The quiet is no longer hollow. It's peaceful. I'm focusing on my work. I'm reconnecting with people who were there for me before Andrea, and were still there after. Last month, I took a solo trip to the coast. I spent a week just walking on the beach, watching the tides come in and go out. It felt like a reset. The world is still a complicated place, but my little corner of it is mine again. The chapter is closed. Thank you for reading.